A lot of people have been asking me, Rarran, what are some free-to-play builds that I could play in PvP to actually win some games? So what I did was I came up with a bunch of them to hopefully help a lot of you have a good composition without grinding too hard. And if this is helpful for you, please subscribe. I want to be your #1 mercenary guy. And of course, you look fantastic. Main idea of these comps is to have mercenaries that are not legendaries in them unless I had no better option. And I'm trying my absolute hardest here to come up with good compositions that I think will do really well for a lot of players. So I hope this does help quite a bit. Starting off with our first free-to-play build here, we're having the classic Samaro plus Xyrella converging into more of a shadow composition with Karen for speed manipulation. And then there's Varden for the constant speed manipulation or slowdown of the enemy team. Now, if you do have Natalie Celine and you don't have Varden fully maxed, you could put Natalie in here as well. She'll do completely fine. There's just the general opener will be swapped from Dawn's Grab to Temzin instead, and then you have Natalie on your bench. That's the main idea here. But obviously, let's just go through what this build does. You start off with Samaro with Double Strike being maxed, and then of course you want Burning Blade as the equipment, because your general idea here is to use Samaro as just killing a singular unit, and if it so happens to live a turn after, well then you're pretty happy. Xyrella obviously as well is just to set up Samaro with Blinding Luminance in her Radiant Wand equipment. That is the bread and butter of this composition. Kill a caster, then you're in a fantastic position, because when you start to notice that your mercenary team is dying, you have Vol'jin or Temzin to kind of carry you through the shadow composition with Karen in a speed manipulation. Now, Varden, if you're gonna use them, Flurry is the absolute must. You must max it. Cold Snap has had a little bit more of a presence in my PvP matches with Varden, but I do think Flurry is the go-to. Ice Lance can also be good. The general idea here is that Ice Lance just freezes someone that's slower than them. Then basically what you could do is stop them from doing a super powerful move. Works really well with Diablo, especially if they're trying to set up something, but that happens a very niche amount of times. And then of course for equipment, we have Chilling Amulet 4. The nice thing about this equipment is this one is given to you once Varden is 30. And this equipment makes Varden very awkward to focus because they don't want to focus them if they can proc this and freeze one of their minions. And then of course, if they don't focus Varden, then it's just infinite freezes or infinite slows for days, I should say. Then you start to curve out. So generally the idea, if Dawn's Grasp gets killed, you're completely happy with it. You put in Vol'jin. Vol'jin on his own can carry because of Ring of Haste and the AoEs that he provides. If it so happens that 2 minions dies, then Vol'jin and Temzin are a great combination together, because Temzin gives Vol'jin Veil of Shadows as well as Shadow Bolt, and because Vol'jin makes everything faster with his equipment, which is mandatory. There's no other equipment on Vol'jin. It is a task 7. I'm very sorry for this, but if you can get it, it makes Vol'jin super powerful because of his AoE damage, and it becomes a very fast ability. Now, Karen's obviously in here because Karen has speed manipulation out the wazoo. Also just an extremely powerful mercenary. Earth Stomp, slowing them down for 3 speed, and Endurance Aura, speeding your characters up, is just too strong. Then Reincarnation to basically summon Karen back. And the nice thing is, if Karen dies and you've already queued an ability, he gets to do the ability after, which is incredibly powerful. So highly recommend you put Karen to this comp. But yeah, if you don't have Dawn, you don't want to level them up, just put Natalie in, start your comp off with Xyrella, Samaro, and Temzin, and then put Vol'jin right after. Or you can start with Natalie instead of Temzin. It's up to you. Let me know what you think. Let's go on to the next composition. Next on the list is more of a fire package mixed with some slowdown. That's the main idea here. Now, obviously Karen's back in here for the exact same reason as the previous build. Really strong mercenary. You might as well level him up. He's already one of the best mercenaries in the game. You should grind him out. He's very strong. But the difference here is now that Tavish is here, Cariel's here, and Geddon is your major opener. The main idea here is you're going to start off with Tavish, and Cariel is going to auto taunt to make sure that Tavish or Geddon can't be targeted by Samaro or whatever it may happen to be. And then the following turn, you Seal of Light your Cariel or you retaunt her. Tavish will then play Explosive Trap, and then Geddon will play the Inferno or the Living Bomb, and it will just absolutely blow the enemy mercs out of their water. I don't know what I was going to say there, but that's the general idea. Now, it is very important here to get rigged wiring for Tavish, and I'm sorry this is a task 7. I can't do it's not my fault, but the reason why it's so good is because not only does it give Tavish more health, which means he could potentially live longer, but also your traps last until they triggered. So if you do get the Explosive Trap off or the Bear Trap, it will live until they are focused. And if they don't focus Tavish early enough, you then just get to stack explosive traps on top of themselves, which can be a problem in itself. Now, Geddon, on the other hand, is really strong as well because they have to focus Geddon. Otherwise, they will just get completely AoE'd out of the game with fire damage. And Carryall is obviously here to protect. Now, for Geddon's equipment, I do think that Inferno might be better here, the Mark. But if you can, the Living Bomb will be great. But if you want to use this equipment, I recommend not putting Geddon in first and maybe putting Varden in instead. Varden obviously does the same thing here, and then you can follow it up with Geddon. But the nice thing with starting off with Geddon is that you have the fire combo immediately, so maybe the Mark is just generally better. The only real difference here in this comp is the Voon. Now, I haven't personally leveled up Voon, but the reason why Voon is in here is A, you do have a fire proc with your Geddon, which may actually matter. But Voon is surprisingly great against casters. I had it played against me at 8k MMR, and it just completely dismantled me. The one thing that Voon has going for him is that he does a lot of damage with Axe Throw because it hits 2 minions, and against casters, it does a lot. But on top of this, Evasive Worm at its max rank is 25 damage with Divine Shield and Rush. And then you give it, I believe it's the Worm Claws, Wind Fury. So it has more attack and more damage because you get to hit them twice, which can just completely murder someone off the game entirely. And because Voon will be coming off the bench, its cooldown will already be gone. That is the general idea of this composition. It is a fire one. If you do have, I'm going to just mention this for replacements. If you do actually have Rag as your legendary, you can put Rag in instead of Voon because Rag will do the exact same thing as Voon. You don't need the Evasive Worm in this case, and then Rag can proc the fire as well as just finish games with like Die, Insect, or Meteor to begin with. But that's the general comp. Let's go to the last but not least here is the Orc comp. Now, I am starting off with Thrall, and the reason why I'm starting off with Thrall is because there's no other way to make this comp really work. Now, I will say this right at the start. If you don't have Thrall and you actually have Garrosh, that works just as well. But again, the main idea here is obviously to use Thrall as your main source of damage or Garrosh to really start off the game. Now, the basic idea with Thrall is that Thrall is a huge threat. And then you have Samaro as your second starter with Xyrella again, because what that does is basically force the enemy to pick Thrall or Samaro, and then you can kind of pop off with the other one. These two are the exact same thing as the previous comp, so don't even worry about it. This is completely fine. Saurfang is here to obviously buff up the rest of your orcs, as also is just extremely good as a mercenary in himself. The serrated shield equipment is the absolute must. It gives them more stats. Generally, having more stats on your mercenaries is great because it makes the breakpoints a lot harder to reach. And then Rarran is here because offensive rally with the rest of them is very strong. It makes a lot of your characters who are going to attack probably quite a bit here just do more damage and be a more annoying character to deal with. And then Tyrion is here to either A, deal with a really pesky protector and or fighter, just set them to 1, or give your characters a Blessing of Kings. You don't really care about the Divine Assault because it's very hard to get this off, but if you do see the point of the death blow, then it's very strong. For Tyrion's equipment, I would recommend doing King's Helm. Ashbringer is probably going to be out too late for it to really matter, so I definitely recommend this. If you do have Tyrion's Shield, then this is definitely not that bad either because it's just stats and gives Tyrion Divine Shield to begin with, but King's Helm is definitely fine because you're probably going to be using Blessing of Kings to begin with quite a bit in this comp. Rarran, obviously, I would recommend you upgrade this one as fast as possible, or the Orc Onslaught. Both are completely fine. When it comes to equipment, again, I really like just generally having health. Health is great. Helm of Inspiration is definitely not that bad either, though, so you can go for either or. This one just requires task 7 compared to this one requires 30. Xyrella and Samaro the same. We're running through Saurfang. For Thrall, I think you absolutely need Doomhammer, and it is a task 7, so I'm very sorry. And then if you want to run Garrosh, then easily the best one is the Dueling Gauntlets, in my opinion. I don't mind the Tusks or the Orcish Banner, but Dueling Gauntlets means that at some point in time, you can Makaros someone and you can probably kill them. I hope this is helpful. If this was, please leave a like. And if you have any free-to-play builds that you want to showcase, leave them in the comments down below. I hope this is helpful. I tried really hard to come up with good comps for you guys. I hope this helps. Thanks for watching.